So Tottenham have actually completed the signings of two of Manchester City's most underrated players, Savinho and Omar Marmoush. These two signings will go a long way into addressing the attacking problems Tottenham have had over the past 2 years. The pair can play in multiple positions across the front line, but to understand just how good Savinho and Omar Marmoush really are, we have to look back at their journeys, find out what they've both had to sacrifice, and understand exactly how they've gotten to these points in their careers. Believe it or not, but Savinho was destined to be a footballer. Savinho was born in the southeast of Brazil, in the rural area of São Mateus. He grew up with his grandparents, mostly spending time on the farm, but the passion for football never left the blood in his veins. After all, he was Brazilian. At the age of 5, the guy was already being told by his coaches that his talent was undeniable. He'd be destined for the top. Turns out his coaches were spot on, because by the age of 11, the kid had already signed for Atletico Mineiro after impressing in a match against their U17 side. See, in today's football, there's a never-ending vicious cycle of producing wingers who have the insatiable urge to cut inside and shoot. Garnacho, Marcus Rashford, Morgan Rogers, the list goes on and on. This profile of wingers is everywhere. Hell, you probably have one of these guys playing for your team. I don't know if I speak for everyone, but I'm kind of sick of it. I miss the days of old-school touchline wingers, and even though he didn't know yet Savinho was going to be the answer to a problem that football still hasn't found a solution for. Savinho rose rapidly through the ranks of Atletico Mineiro, developing the reputation of a pure touchline winger. The guy practically refused to shoot because all he wanted to do was dribble, becoming so good at that one skill he could practically predict the defender's next move before even engaging in a 1v1. It was this kind of commitment to developing his skills that eventually led Savinho to making his debut for Atletico Mineiro in September of 2020, becoming the youngest ever player to play for the club in the Brazilian top flight. 2 years later, he made history again, this time becoming the youngest ever player to score for Atletico Mineiro in the Copa Libertadores. In a total of 35 appearances for Atletico Mineiro, the Brazilian scored a measly 2 goals in all competitions, but the goals were irrelevant because it's how he played why people would pay money to watch this guy play. What made Savinho's dribbling so good was how he would slow down the pace of the game before accelerating onto either direction to beat his marker in a 1v1. Because of his movements, the defenders often had a really hard time trying to anticipate his next move. The only problem was that Savinho paired this incredible skill with Timo Werner level finishing. This made him so inconsistent, but that wouldn't stop the City Football Group from taking the chance on him. Here's something crazy. The City Football Group convinced Savio to join their sister club Troyes over Arsenal, and thank God this happened. They saved him from going 6 years without a trophy under Arteta. Now, choosing to join a mid-table team in France over Arsenal sounds like a money laundering scheme to me, but the City Football Group convinced Savinho that by joining Troyes, this would be the best move for his development, and maybe down the line he could even join Manchester City if he ever became good enough. Hey bro, if you are enjoying the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button for me. Now let's get back to the video. After joining Troyes, he was immediately loaned out to Eredivisie side PSV. This became the place where his European journey truly began, but very quickly it all came crashing down. At the start, he showed flashes of his brilliance. He was getting past players, making assists. He still couldn't finish, but there was a player there. The only problem was that injuries disrupted his season, so much so he only made 6 league appearances throughout the entire 22-23 season. Now, it may have been unfortunate how things ended at PSV, but this ended up being a blessing in disguise because Savinho smashed it at his next club. In the 23-24 campaign, Savinho joined Girona on loan. The club played a possession game of football that, when paired with Savinho's dribbling threat, could make for a scary good mix. But things weren't that simple. The Girona Genoa manager at the time, Michael Sanchez, told sporting director Kike Carcel that he wanted an experienced winger, but Carcel was persistent on giving Savinho a chance in the first team. Savinho not only arrived at Genoa with barely any first team experience, but now he had to perform under a manager who really didn't want him there. That kind of pressure for a kid who had barely hit his 20s was insane, but Savinho proved that his Brazilian passport was valid. By match week 5 in the 23-24 campaign, the guy was already scoring crucial goals and getting assists against Granada, and that became the moment his head coach doubled down on the pressure. During halftime in one of Genoa's games, the manager Michael Sanchez pulled aside Savinho and said, "You have the potential to finish this season with 10 goals and 20 assists, so do it." This wasn't a motivational speech. This was the manager finally believing in the Savinho hype. Sanchez finally understood what sporting director Kike Carcel saw in Savinho back when he still questioned the signing. While at Atletico Mineiro, Savinho was seen as a raw talent, Genoa became the place where Savinho turned that raw talent into consistency. This wasn't dribbling. This was dribbling with purpose. In a 1v1, he went from being consistent to being inevitable. But the biggest change that season wasn't the dribbling. It's what he was able to do with that dribbling. The combination play between him and his teammates became almost telepathic, and when you combine this with his ability in a 1v1, there's no defense that's clamping that. But most importantly, his output from a creative aspect was crucial to everything that Genoa did that season. Either he would loft the ball into the box for his striker to get a header onto the ball, or he would ping in a low cross into the 6-yard box for a Ronaldo-esque tap-in. It was these kinds of performances that became instrumental in Girona mounting a title charge that season. Yes, the Spanish side may not have won the league, but that season they pulled off a Champions League finish with Savinho ending that campaign on 10 goals and 10 assists across all competitions. That became the moment the City Football Group knew he was ready to make that step up to the big leagues. Manchester City paid a scumbaggish £13 million for the Brazilian signature. Money laundering at its finest. He arrived in England with massive expectation. He arrived playing for the English champions under the guide of one of the greatest tactical minds the sport has ever seen, Pep Guardiola. This was a Man City side with Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish and Phil Foden on the wings, but Pep opted to put his trust in the 21-year-old kid from Brazil by giving him 21 league starts across that season. Savinho repaid Pep's faith in him by providing 10 Premier League assists, but what's more interesting was how the City boss tactically used Savinho in the first team. Savinho, being a versatile option capable of operating on both flanks, gave Pep a level of tactical variation he couldn't get from the likes of Phil Foden and Jack Grealish. On the right, Savinho became a creative cheat code in breaking down low blocks. He would combine with his teammates in central areas to break down stubborn defenses. He could create space for the overlapping runner by cutting inside onto his left foot, and could even disguise his passes by using the outside of his foot like Lamine Yamal. This type of profile in modern football is rare. If City needed a more direct goal threat, they'd play Savinho off the left. This allowed him to drive infield and shoot across the goalkeeper, giving him more favorable finishing angles. Now, even though from this side he still couldn't hit the target to save his life, ending that season on only 3 goals, that tactical versatility to switch sides in between games made him invaluable in Pep's system. Now, even though City ended that season with only a Community Shield and a 3rd place finish in the league, Savinho had proved he could perform at the highest level. Despite ending the 24-25 campaign on a high, the start to the 25-26 season was concerning at the very least. He kicked off that season with an unknown injury that kept him out for the first 3 league games. He was eased back into full fitness in the following couple of games, but he couldn't find any real consistency in his games. The additions of Ryan Cherky in the summer and the emergence of Jeremy Doku made breaking into the first team that much harder. Pep's shift to a more transitional style of play that season also didn't help Savinho in making much of a case for himself on justifying his place in the starting 11. All these circumstances eventually led to him only scoring 4 goals and getting 3 assists in 36 appearances across all competitions. The guy was practically a bench option for most parts of the season. Savinho, by that point, was fed up with being used as a utility player player and just wanted to enjoy his football again, and that was when Tottenham made their move. It may have taken 2 years, but Savinho is finally a Tottenham Hotspur player, and it only took about a fee of £75 million with 10 million in add-ons to make the deal happen. Brother, we've had our pants pulled down by paying that much for a winger with only 2 Premier League goals in 2 years, but his winger profile is such a rarity in modern football that the fee doesn't even matter. He comes in and instantly improves this dead team, and I for one can't wait for his debut. Omar Marmoush's journey is a reminder that there's no single path to get to the top. He began his journey in the capital city of Cairo in Egypt. At school, he had this reputation of being a hard-working kid, but his teachers knew him for one thing and one thing only, and that was his passion for the beautiful game. For his hard work, dedication, and commitment to the sport, Marmoush would eventually earn his debut for Egyptian Premier League side Wadi Degla on the 8th of July 2016. See, during his time in Egypt, Marmoush wasn't your typical number 9. He wasn't someone who stayed up front to hold up the ball and link up play with his teammates. Instead, he used his technical finishing and pace to get in behind his defender and score his chances. Now, during his time in Egypt, he was seen as a raw prospect who wasn't yet the finished product. But it didn't take a genius to understand that if his skills were polished enough, the kid could be something scary in the future. And that was when Wolfsburg came calling. After scoring 2 goals and making 16 appearances for Wadi Degla, the German Giants decided to take the chance on the young Egyptian. Now, I need you to put yourself in the shoes of Omar Marmoush. You just received a life-changing opportunity to make the move to Europe. You can't turn down this opportunity. But at 18, you have to leave the place you've called home your whole life, now having to learn a new language, eating different food, and having to understand a whole new culture. No pressure, kid. He spent nearly 2 years in Wolfsburg's reserve team upon his arrival in Germany, where he not only adapted to life abroad, but he refined the technical elements in his game. His movements became sharper and his finishing was more instinctual. He improved so much so, he earned his professional debut for Wolfsburg on the 26th of May 2020, coming off the bench in a 4-1 win against the Bayer Leverkusen. These were Marmoush's first steps at senior level, and the hope was that in the following season, he'd have a more prominent part in Wolfsburg's first team, but that wasn't how things really panned out. In his first 6 months across the 2020-21 campaign, the guy legit got a single minute of first team action in the Bundesliga, sprinkled in with some cup games here and there. The disrespect was crazy. At the start of the new year of that season, Marmoush decided a loan move to German second division side St. Pauli would be the best path for his development. Playing consistent first team football gave him a level of experience he could never get playing in Wolfsburg's reserve team. He hit the ground running, scoring his first goal for the club in just his second league appearance. It was during this period you could really start to see the skill in his game. This wasn't just a number 9 trying to score goals for the sake of stats, but he wanted to look good while doing it. His rapid change of pace made defenders hate the prospect of going 1v1 against this guy. He had an excellent first touch, and the way he just made everything look effortless was just a joy to watch. He ended that campaign on 7 goals and 3 assists, showing a lot of promise, and in the following season he made another loan move, this time to Bundesliga side Stuttgart. Performing in the German second tier is one thing, but doing it in the top flight is a whole different ball game. Now, the 21-22 season wasn't a breakout season for Marmoush, but it was a season in which he proved he could perform at the highest level. Looking back, 3 goals and 5 assists across the course of an entire campaign doesn't sound great, but when you consider he had a national team call-up for Egypt mid-campaign and that he also dealt with a foot injury during the course of the campaign, you could say that this was an off-season for the Egyptian international. At the start of the 22-23 season, Wolfsburg decided that Marmoush was now ready for the first team. Despite scoring his first goal for the club in the first round of the DFB Pokal, it took the guy 8 matches to score his first league goal for Wolfsburg in a period the club was struggling for real consistency. For the most part that season, his goals came in purple patches, despite getting consistent minutes in the first team. Ending your final campaign for Wolfsburg on 5 goals in a league Timo Werner turned into mincemeat was just really disappointing for the talent on display. After going on multiple loan spells during his time at Wolfsburg and eventually making that step up to the senior team, at the end of the 23-24 campaign, both parties decided on going their separate ways after contract negotiations broke down. Marmoush's next move would see the Egyptian join Eintracht Frankfurt on a free transfer. The move made a lot of sense because of Frankfurt's style of play involving a balance between vertical movements mixed in with the possession game, providing the perfect tactical setup for Marmoush to thrive in. 17 goals and 6 assists in the 23-24 season provided proof that Marmoush had been tactically mismanaged at his prior clubs. That season, it felt like Marmoush had perfected every skill in his game, and now he just needed to be a more consistent finisher. It felt as if he stopped second-guessing himself. He was doing stepovers to beat his marker in a 1v1. He had the audacity to fake his shots just to give him that extra room of space in possession. He wasn't taking a first touch to control the ball. He was taking that first touch to create an angle to get a shot on goal. Now, if the 23-24 campaign was Marmoush's breakout season in the German top flight, then the 24-25 campaign cemented the Egyptian prince as one of the best attacking forwards in all of Europe. He scored 15 goals in 17 Bundesliga appearances from an expected XG of 8.9, showing just how ruthless he became in front of goal. You don't get these kind of numbers by scoring 6-yard tap-ins. Marmoush could score long-range screamers inside the box. He would intentionally stay in the defender's blind spot, then appear out of nowhere for a clean finish to find the back of the net. Fast forward to midway through the 24-25 campaign, and Marmoush had scored 20 goals and registered 14 assists across all competitions for Frankfurt. The guy was simply unstoppable, and that's when Manchester City stepped in. The citizens put down £59 million for the Egyptian international signature. The move to England came with massive pressure, but it's nothing Marmoush hasn't dealt with throughout his entire career. This was a guy who had been on multiple loan spells during his time at Wolfsburg, so the unfamiliar was nothing new to him. Marmoush arrived in Manchester to a team in need of attacking options, and he hit the ground running. He scored his first Premier League goal in a 4-0 win against Newcastle United, a game in which he not only scored once, but he delivered a hat-trick. He continued that form until the end of the 24-25 campaign, helping City not only qualify for Champions League football, but the citizens even made an FA Cup final, just losing 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Now, despite performing relatively well in his first 6 months in Manchester, there was always this feeling that City never truly got the absolute best from the Egyptian international, and the 25-26 season was the perfect example of this tactical problem. Marmoush found himself competing for minutes in a side built around Erling Haaland's hold-up play and pure goal-scoring threat. City, during this period, were also adopting a more direct style of play, meaning the striker's hold-up play all of a sudden became a crucial part of the system, favoring more towards Haaland's game. Marmoush's game was built around making runs in behind, not winning aerial duels, and this pushed him further down the pecking order. Most times, the Egyptian was forced to play either as a winger or as a second striker, and if you've watched him play, this isn't really his best position. City were also strengthening their attacking options with players like Savio, further diminishing Marmoush's minutes in the first team during the second half of the 25-26 campaign. All these circumstances eventually led to Marmoush ending his Premier League campaign on 3 goals and 3 assists. Frustrated with his minutes in City's first team, the Egyptian prince has been forced into reconsidering his future at the club, and that's when Tottenham saw an opportunity. Somehow, Tottenham, of all teams, have managed to organize a loan move for Marmoush, and if certain clauses are met within that contract, we could get this guy for as cheap as £50 million. Marmoush fixes all the goal-scoring problems that Tottenham have had for some time now, and this is a signing that I hope does not fail. Marmoush starts his new journey at Tottenham, and I for one can't wait to see this guy play. That'll be it from me, guys. If you guys did like this video, click subscribe, and if you want to see more videos just like this one, check out my last recent video.